Hey, Video Diary. So, I notice that I spend my time locked away a lot. Like my mates or my staff, friends, I keep apart from everybody. And this is part of this this thing. Uh, I'm not sure exactly what it is, um, but other grieving parents have reported it to me. Um, I think it's better for me because I'm in New York City, so I can be around people but not have to interact or otherwise know them. So there's some sense of, swimming in it but not having to be participating. Whereas if you live in the suburbs or um, country, I really could see how that type of isolation could become too much. It's almost too much for me, only in the sense that I don't enjoy the things I used to. Sorry when I talk, I leave so many spaces. This is a very difficult process of untangling feelings. But it's directly related to grieving. And part of it is the jokes and the banter that no longer feels comfortable in light of this shitty reality. I'll give you an example. This was just weeks after Forrest died. I got myself to a jam session, and one of the guys came in and was saying, how he was riding his bike, and a guy rode up next to him and was passing him, and he was dressed in rags, and it was like, yeah, I was getting beaten down, Broadway on my bike by some junkie. And everyone, ha ha ha, except me. And maybe this guy picked up on it because he knew my son and he knows me. But it's just, I didn't take it personally. I don't. It's what naturally comes out of our mouth when we're dealing with humor and dark situations and off-color humor can have a real purpose. It can serve a real purpose. It can really underscore the absurdity of a particular thing. Bad ideas need to be ridiculed, and humor is the tool. So I can't hang out with people because I can't enjoy laughter. I made a poster for this show that I have coming, and I put a dog's head on the guitar player, and I laughed my ass off privately because it's so funny. By the way, this gig will be 1 year, pretty much 1 year, within a week. And I didn't intend for that. It just worked out that way, that I return with my group. And I'm ambivalent. I'm ambivalent in the sense that I have both positive and negative feelings about it. I don't think I'll ever play the club that I played when Forrest came. I don't think I'll do it. Yeah, so the isolation continues. And I don't think it's going to end. I think the isolation is the only thing that gives me some comfort. Because small talk and that kind of stuff doesn't. Last thing I'd like to say is I've been avoiding this one part of a book I've been reading. It's a biography on Dizzy Gillespie. And Dizzy came from very humble, poor 10 brothers and sisters from North Carolina, just ridiculous racism, and fought his way up into the ranks of the top world-class musicians, innovators. And he was always like that. He was just had a long career of doing that, but he was always that adventurous. He was always that person. But anyway, I've been in the book. I'm more than halfway through it, but I just got to the chapter where Charlie Parker dies. And those guys obviously interacted, played, and there's some myth-busting, portions of this book where they didn't play a lot together after a certain point. And one of the reasons is because Charlie Parker, although brilliant, was unreliable. And because he was just a hardcore junkie. And yeah, he was I'm trying to think, like, is he a junkie that was a virtuoso at jazz? Or was he a virtuoso who was a junkie? For him, he became addicted at around the same age as Forrest, 15, 16. And his friends, Charlie Parker's colleagues, and I don't know if you have any friends if you're a junkie, maybe you don't, but his colleagues were shocked, and Dizzy reported just seeing him before he died, bloated and disheveled. He had ulcers and a heart condition. He was a heavy alcoholic and wasn't playing well at that time, like very inconsistent. He would be brilliant, but then unable to play for some gigs. He wouldn't show up. At one point, he went to Birdland to get in the door, and they wouldn't let him in because he looked like a street person. And they would not let Bird into Birdland, which gives you some indication of how decayed he allowed himself to become. And he needed to shoot up, just like any other junkie, probably several times a day, certainly before he played. And these guys would always have problems. Like if they went on tour and they couldn't find heroin when they were, like, let's say in South America, one of Dizzy's big band members had to fly home. And I was just thinking, what was that flight like from Argentina all the way back to New York City to score heroin because you couldn't function? That was not Charlie Parker, but Charlie Parker's drug exploits are, they're funny if you're not a junkie and know nothing about it. But if you ever have to deal with these people, it sucks because they're just unreliable and they're damaging themselves. And with guys like Art Pepper and Bird, you there's so many reports of heartbreak, of people like pleading with these guys to respect themselves, but they couldn't do it. So these jazz myths, or whatever, music myths, hero myths, anti-hero myths that revolve around heroin specifically, people should do some more reading. Read Ira Gitler's book, Swing to Bop, and any honest book about drug use during those jazz years. Those people had terrible lives, shitty lives, and so did everyone around them. People lost money. I don't want to think about this stuff all the time. It's my staff enjoying life. It's nice. But I stay in here because junkies ruin, dead junkies ruin loved ones who are dead from heroin. Destroy joy, right? They destroy pleasure, people's ability to have it. I don't know if it's like that for drunks. Maybe. Because maybe when an alcoholic is an alcoholic, you're not dealing with the person anymore. You're dealing with that filter. And it's the same thing with junk. And I wonder sometimes how much of my son's filter I was dealing with and how much of him. I will never know. I don't want to create mythologies in my mind, either positive or negative ones. But how far does anybody have to go? You don't have to go very far to see what this really is, what junk really is, what it really does to people. That's why dealers should be shut down. Shut down these assholes. And give free heroin to all junkies in a safe environment until they are able to either die or realize that life is worth living. Anyway, I read the page. It was only one little sentence about Charlie Parker's death. Obviously, the person who wrote this book did not want to belabor that point. He had a heart attack in his hotel room. They thought he was, decades older than he was. Charlie Parker could have played gigs with Jimi Hendrix. Think about that.